Hello students, I am Professor Dr. Adarsh Kumar. Today I bring you the next learning episode in BSc Forensic Science of an important unit of paper forensic medicine, that is firearm injuries. To begin with, I will quote, "There are no dangerous weapons, there are only dangerous men," as said by Robert Hanlon. With this introduction on firearm injuries come to an end. Let us look at other modules which we will study in this chapter. Module 1, we will cover the classification of firearms. Module 2 will deal with the smooth bore firearm injuries. Module 3 will cover the rifled firearm injuries. Module 4 will cover the medico-legal aspects of firearm injuries, and Module 5 will be the conclusion. They are categorized or classified as number 1 is smooth bored firearm, also called as shotguns. They are further divided into single barreled or double barreled. Then other category is the breech loader or muzzle loader, and third category is the cylinder bore or the choke bore. Other than smooth bore, the other category is the rifled firearms. They are further classified into high velocity, which includes shoulder arm rifled firearms like rifle, automatic weapons, for example machine gun, stun gun, etc. The low velocity rifled firearms like hand arms, for example revolver and pistol. Third category is the air or gas operated firearms, generally referred to as air guns, since most often compressed air is used to propel a projectile. These weapons are by no means innocuous as generally believed. And the fourth category is the country made firearms. These are crude smooth bore firearms with some part having rifling as well. So, it is a mixture of both. If we see the characteristics of the entry wound, depending upon the range of firing, they can be divided further. First is the contact shot. The contact shot wound in the case of shotgun is usually a large irregular hole resulting from the explosive blast effect. The edge of the defect is scorched by flame and the skin surrounding it is blackened by smoke and tattooed by unburnt gunpowder. An imprint abrasion produced by the muzzle end may be seen. The shot, which comprises of bunch of pellets, passes into the body as a solid mass. The injured tissue is usually cherry red in color. Then second possibility is the close shot, that is the distance up to 1 meter. This produces a circular defect with irregular inverted borders. The edges are scorched due to flame and blackened by smoke. A fairly wide zone of tattooing may surround the edges of the wound. Tissues often appear cherry red in color. The pellets enter the track en masse. Sometimes a shotgun may discharge parts of the cartridge case itself, such as fragmented cardboard, plastic or primer particles. At contact and close ranges, these may contribute to the wound. Third category is the near shot wound, or that is up to a distance of 2 meters. The wound in this case is circular or oval in shape. Blackening may be evident around the wound up to a maximum distance of 30 centimeters. Sometimes the wad produces mild abrasions if fired within a range of 30 centimeters. Tattooing is present over a wide area. The pellets travel in compact mass up to a distance of about 45 centimeters, after which they begin to disperse. The entry wound is approximately 2.5 centimeter in diameter. If the shot enters at an angle less than 90 degrees, shape of the wound may become triangular or semicircular. Then fourth category is the distance shot, when the range is beyond 2 meters. Beyond a range of 2 meters, there will be burning and blackening, but tattooing may be rare. Wad may be present in the wound up to a range of 5 meters. The dispersion of pellets becomes significant at ranges over 2 meters. Thereafter, the spread increases progressively and a central defect diminishes in size proportionately. The old rule of thumb states that the diameter of the spread of pellets in inches is roughly equal to the range of fire in yards. In distant ranges beyond 6 to 10 meters, the central hole may shrink to nothing. At such ranges, the shots may not be lethal, and the pellets, if they do penetrate the skin at all, may lie just in the subcutaneous tissue. The distance between the muzzle end of the firearm and the target is called range. This may be contact range if the muzzle end is in contact with the body, close range if the range is within the distance travelled by flame, say up to 8 centimeters approximately. Then near range if it is within the distance travelled by unburnt or partially burnt gunpowder, which may extend up to a 40 to 50 centimeters in case of handguns and 60 to 100 centimeters in case of rifles. And then there will be distant range if it is beyond the range of flames, smoke and gunpowder particles. So, let us see what are the various phenomena or effects which are present around wound of entry in case of rifled firearm injuries. During the bullet's attempt at perforating the skin while entering, due to this spinning movement, the edge of the entrance wound may be abraded in the form of a collar which is called as abrasion collar. In some cases, there is contusion instead of abrasion, in which case it is more appropriately called as contusion collar. The diameter of the entry hole together with the abrasion collar may give the approximate diameter of the bullet. The barrel of the firearm is generally lubricated between uses. When such a weapon is fired, the bullet as it is propelled through the barrel would naturally carry this grease used as lubricant on it, which subsequently gets deposited on the skin around the entrance wound. The spin of the bullet causes wiping of its surface on the skin while entering. This is called grease or dirt collar. The abrasion and grease collar normally measure only about 0.3 to 0.7 centimeters respectively. When both abrasion and grease collars are present, the grease collar is seen as the inner zone while the abrasion collar constitutes the outer zone. Then there are burning, scorching and singeing of the skin and hair. This results from the flame that emerges from the muzzle at the time of firing. Clothing around the wound of entry may also show evidence of burning. Tattooing, also called as peppering, results from the grains of gunpowder being driven into the skin, each grain acting as a minute missile. This tattooing is seen on the skin as small, discrete black specks which cannot be wiped off. The extent of tattooing will depend upon the caliber of the weapon, the type of powder used as well as the range. The same may be absent if the firing has taken place through the clothings. Blackening or smudging results from a superficial deposit of smoke on the skin. In other words, it is only carbon particle deposition over the skin and hence can be easily wiped off with a wet sponge. The intensity of the blackening or smudging will depend on the caliber of the weapon, the type of powder used and the range. Thus, the greater the caliber of the weapon, wider the area of blackening and vice versa. Smudging may also be absent on the skin if firing has taken place through the clothings. The presence of blackening, especially if a smokeless powder is used, may not be clearly visible to the naked eye. In such cases, infrared or ultraviolet photography will help to visualize it. Carbon monoxide is also evolved on explosion of gunpowder and imparts a cherry red color to the surrounding tissues. A lead ring or metal ring around the entry wound results from deposition of very small quantities of lead or other metals in the form of a ring or collar as the projectile enters the skin. This lead ring can be appreciated radiologically or by neutron activation analysis. Now, we will see all these phenomena depending upon the range of fire. First, we will take the contact shot. In this, the firearm is placed in contact with the skin or clothing. A contact wound over a dense area such as the vault of the skull is generally large and cruciate, that is the cruciform, stellate or star shaped, due to the explosive effects of the gases which are liberated. The imprint of the muzzle of the weapon may be found stamped on the skin. The burning, blackening and tattooing are slight or absent in the adjacent skin, since all the components of the explosion are driven into the wound. The tissues are often saturated with carbon monoxide and therefore cherry red in color. The cranial contact wounds are generally seen on the forehead or temple. Contact wounds over thin bone, chest or abdomen are usually circular in shape and are surrounded by abrasion or contusion collar. The overall diameter of the hole plus the collar represents the approximate diameter of the bullet. The surrounding hair are also singed. Second is the close shot. In this, the firearm was fired within the range of flame and powder blast, but was not in direct contact with the skin or clothing. Flame travels approximately up to 75 centimeters in case of a revolver or pistol and 15 centimeters in case of a rifle. The wound appears as a circular hole surrounded by scorching, singeing, blackening and tattooing. Abrasion color and grease color are also present. Then third is the near shot. It means that the firearm was fired outside the range of flame but within the range of powder blast. The entry wound is circular or oval in shape. Unburnt powder grains and small metallic particles travel approximately up to 60 centimeters in case of revolver and pistol and 75 centimeters in case of rifles. So, in practical situations, tattooing is seen up to a maximum distance of about 90 centimeters. Singeing and of hair and scorching are absent. Smudging can occur up to a range of 30 centimeters. Grease color and abrasion color are present. Then fourth is the distant shot. It means that the firearm was discharged outside the range of flame and powder blast. The entry wound is circular with inverted margins. Scorching, tattooing and blackening all absent. Grease color and abrasion color are present. Distant shots suggest a range beyond self-infliction. The range in any case of gunshot injury can be estimated accurately by test firing using the same gun and similar cartridge at different ranges and comparing the effects with wound present in the victim. Now, let us see the exit wound in case of rifled firearm injury. The characteristic features. They vary greatly in size, shape and configuration. They are usually larger than the corresponding wound of entry. Scorching, blackening and tattooing are absent. Abrasion and grease colors are also absent. The edges are invariably everted, that means turned outside, and if the skin at the exit wound appears to be circular or nearly circular, clear defect surrounded by margin of abrasion, which is usually broader than entry wound, resembling a wound of entrance, then it is called as shored or supported exit wound. This phenomena is caused by a bullet fires at long range or through the clothing, or when the firearm is of a small caliber and discharged in contact with the skin at a point where bone is not immediately below the skin surface. This is the path traversed by a projectile inside the body of a victim of gunshot injury between the entry and exit wounds. In the case of low velocity weapons, the track can be devious instead of straight. So, an X-ray prior to medico-legal autopsy will assist significantly in locating bullets or pellets lodged in the body. In module 4, we will cover the medico-legal aspects of firearm injuries. The following question needs to be answered in that situation. Number 1, the nature of the firearm. Number 2, the range of the firearm. Number 3, the direction of the firearm injury. Number 4, the place from where the firing took place. Number 5, the cause of death, and lastly the manner of death. We will see one by one. The nature of the firearm. It is important to know the type of firearm used, whether rifled or smoothbore. An examination of the size of the bullet and its weight, caliber, number, size and direction of the rifling marks on it and the kind of metal it is made of will give an idea regarding the weapon used. The diameter of a bullet is measured with a micrometer. Bullets may be recovered at the scene of a shooting incident or from the body during autopsy. A bullet recovered from a dead body must not be washed or cleaned, as this may remove the residue of any powder adhering to it. Instead, it should be dried without using heat and preserved for future examination by a ballistic expert. No forceps or metallic instrument should be used by any means to handling the bullet or retrieving it from the body cavity, as it will cause artifacts and also will obliterate the existing rifling marks. The rubber tipped forceps are best for handling projectiles. The size of the bullet, its weight, caliber, the number, size and direction of rifling marks on it, the kind of metal of which it is being made, any blunting of nose and other relevant details should be noted down. The bullet is marked for the future identification by inscribing the autopsy surgeon's initial on the base with a sharp pointed instrument and not on its sides or nose, as this will obliterate other marks that may be already present there. Bullets meant for future examination must be wrapped in absorbent cotton and preserved in empty cardboard boxes. The suspect weapon and the crime bullet are both examined by a ballistic expert, and to find out whether the bullet recovered had been fired from the suspect weapon or not, test firing is done. A test shot is fired from the weapon into a box which is packed with cotton wool. The test bullet which is fired is recovered, and both the test bullet and the bullet recovered from the crime scene are then compared under comparison microscope. This is the kind of microscope under which two objects can be compared simultaneously. If the rifling marks are identical on the test and crime bullets, then the suspect weapon is considered to be used for the weapon of offense. Examination of a spent cartridge case will also provide valuable clues in identifying the crime weapon. The shotgun cartridge bears the name of the manufacturing firm, and sometimes the caliper is imprinted on the casing. The size of the spent case provides a clue regarding the caliber of the weapon. In revolver, the empty case usually remains within the weapon, so that it is rare to find out it at the scene of crime. If an empty case is seen at the scene of crime, generally in pistol or rifle, it is found few feet to the right of the spot where the weapon was discharged. The firing pin will make dent on the base, which is peculiar to that weapon. In shotgun wound, the nature of the shots, for example lead pellets, glass beads or stones etc. used may help in identifying the weapon. Factory made shotgun cartridges use lead shot, while local made ones may use stones, glass blades, iron balls etc. The pellets should be wrapped in absorbent cottons and placed in empty cardboard box and preserved for examination. The presence of wad at the scene of crime or in the dead body conclusively indicates use of shotgun, the diameter of which may give clue regarding the caliber. The range of firing. The range is deduced from appearance of the entrance wound and afterwards with test fire. The direction of fire, if there is no deflection of the projectile, a line joining the entrance wound with the exit wound in a dead body will give the direction of fire. A case of devious tracks or deflection of projectile, as happens in ricochet bullet, this can cause confusion in interpretation. An entry wound is circular if the projectile enters perpendicular to the body surface and oval if the entry is oblique. In case of oblique entry, the abrasion collar becomes eccentric, being wider at the side of the entry. Then the site of the firing, depending upon the calculation of range and direction of fire. And cause of death, usually that is due to hemorrhage or damage to any of the vital organs such as the heart, brain or lungs. Manner of death, the usual manner of death is homicidal or suicidal, while accidental deaths are less common. Firearm injuries could be from smoothbore as well as rifled firearms. In case of smoothbore firearm injuries, characteristics of entry wound will depend upon range of fire, that is contact, close, near or distant shot. Exit wound is usually absent in case of smoothbore firearm injuries. The diameter of the spread in inches is roughly equal to the range of fire in yards in case of smoothbore firearms. Various phenomena or effects which are present around wound of entry in case of rifled firearm injuries are abrasion collar, contusion collar, grease collar, singeing, blackening and tattooing etc. depending upon the range of fire. The diameter of the entry hole together with the abrasion collar may give the approximate diameter of the bullet in case of rifled firearm injuries. The barrel of a firearm is generally lubricated between uses. The extent of tattooing will depend on the caliber of the weapon, the type of powder used and the range. The same may be absent if the firing has taken place through the clothings. The blackening or smudging results from a superficial deposit of smoke on the skin. In other words, it is only carbon particle deposition over the skin and hence can be easily wiped off with a wet sponge. Exit wound is also present in case of rifled firearm injury if bullet has passed from the body. Margins of the exit wound will be everted. A test shot is fired from the weapon into a box which is packed with the cotton wool. The test bullet which is fired is recovered and both the test bullet and the bullet recovered from the crime scene are then compared under comparison microscope. Dear students, this is the end of our conclusion in which we have recapitulated our chapter about firearm injuries and you learned classification of firearms, rifled firearm injuries, smoothbore firearm injuries and various medico-legal aspects of the firearm injuries. I hope you all have enjoyed this lecture and gained valuable knowledge. I hope you all have understood the underlying concepts of this chapter. Do keep in mind what we discussed today. I will be back with one more lecture in this series. If you want to learn more and enhance your knowledge, you may log on to our website www.cec.nic.in for MCQ, quizzes, LORs etc. Make sure you revise the modules frequently so that you master the topic well and take up the exercises. Thank you for your time today. I will see you in the next lecture. Keep learning and goodbye.